My ex-wife cheated on me with my golden child brother and gave birth to his baby now. My family, which always hated me, begs for money after I get promoted. I 29M, got divorced from my wife, 27F, 2 months ago. She had been cheating on me with my estranged brother, 27M, for quite some time. 4 months ago, I finally found out when she told me she was pregnant. At first, she tried to convince me the baby was mine, but my brother's frequent visits made me question everything. So I decided to check her phone. When I confronted her with what I found, she initially denied it but eventually confessed. She had been cheating on me with my brother and had no way out once I knew the truth. My family and I hadn't been on speaking terms since I left home at 18. They had always treated me like an outsider, even within my own family, while my brother was the golden child. I remember once walking into what I thought was a celebration for me, only to realize it was actually for him. When I confronted my parents, asking why they hadn't celebrated my real achievement, they said they didn't want my brother to feel left out. Instead of throwing a tantrum, they told me I should uplift him. That moment broke me, and I decided I would never come back. I stuck to that decision. I paid my way through college with loans and work, and after graduating, I rented a small apartment with a friend. I had no contact with my parents after I left, and they didn't try to reach out either. Years passed. Then last year, my brother contacted me online, asking if I wanted to reconnect with him and my parents, saying they missed me. A lot had changed. I had gotten married 2 years earlier, and was living a comfortable life. Even so, I hadn't fully moved on from the past, so I agreed to meet them. It was awkward and uncomfortable at first, but they seemed to be making an effort to fix things. I felt obligated to try as well, so I invited them to my home. That was my first mistake, introducing my brother to my wife. They met, started an affair, and she got pregnant. I was happy when I first found out, believing the baby was mine. But then my brother started visiting more often. At first, it didn't bother me, but it became unsettling when he would touch her pregnant stomach and talk to it. My wife said it wasn't a big deal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 6 months into the pregnancy, I went through her phone while she was asleep. It confirmed everything I feared. The messages between them proved the baby was his, and that they had been together for a long time. Not only that, but she had no intention of telling me the truth. They planned to wait until after the baby was born, then tell me about the affair, divorce me, and live off my money and child support. The next morning, I confronted her. She tried to deny it at first, but eventually admitted everything. That was the end of our 2-year marriage. Of course, my parents sided with my brother and my wife. Their claims about treating us equally were meaningless. When my wife and brother announced our divorce and their plans to marry on social media, my entire family supported them. No one cared about what they had done to me, how they destroyed my mental health and broke my trust. It felt like I had lost not just my wife but my child too. My parents even told me this was for the best, and that I should be happy for them. They expected me to join the celebrations. Instead, I cut them out of my life again. That decision also affected the divorce. My wife walked away with a large settlement, and my car, largely because my family supported her claims. She and her lawyer created a narrative that I was toxic and controlling, that I forced her to quit her job, even though it had been her own choice. My family backed her up, reinforcing everything she said. They claimed the reason they had cut me off in the first place was because of my so-called misogynistic attitude and temper tantrums, so the evidence was stacked against me. I ended up losing a lot of money in the divorce, but thankfully I got to keep the house. When the divorce was finalized, I was just relieved to be done with all of it, and not have to see any of those awful people ever again. Luckily, there's no waiting period for divorce where I live, and my ex-wife didn't contest it either, so everything was wrapped up as quickly as possible, allowing me to move on. It wasn't easy to forget everything, but I buried myself in work and pushed myself to improve, so I could move past that horrible chapter as quickly as I could. It paid off. 2 weeks ago, I got a promotion. Better position, higher salary, and even a better company car. I couldn't have been happier. To celebrate, I decided to treat myself to a solo dinner at one of my favorite restaurants, but I made the mistake of posting about it online. Within a couple of days, my mother contacted me asking me to come visit. I was confused about what they could possibly want from me now, especially since we hadn't spoken after the divorce and they had supported my ex in her lies. I ignored her for a few days, but then she started calling me relentlessly. When that didn't work, she showed up at my office. She refused to leave and even got into an argument with the receptionist, which was incredibly embarrassing. Eventually, I promised I'd visit in a few days, just to get her to leave. A couple of days later, I went to see my family. They had used the settlement money to move into a bigger house to accommodate the baby, who had been born just over 3 weeks ago. I assumed the alimony was also helping cover their expenses, but honestly, it didn't affect me much, since it was only a small portion of my salary at this point, and I could afford it. My brother wasn't home, and my ex was asleep, so it was just my parents. I didn't bother with small talk, and waited for them to get to the point. After about 5 minutes of silence, my father finally said that my brother had been fired from his job, and the alimony and settlement weren't enough anymore. They had seen my promotion post and were hoping I could help them financially since they were running low on money. My parents had been retired for a long time, my brother was unemployed, and my ex wasn't going back to work anytime soon. The alimony wasn't enough to support a family of 5, especially with a newborn. I understood that, but I was shocked they had the audacity to ask me after everything that had happened. I was so stunned that I couldn't speak for several minutes. Eventually, I realized I didn't need to entertain any of this. I got up and left without saying a word. As I reached the door and opened it, I found my brother standing outside. My parents told me to stay and hear them out, and my brother looked startled to see me there. I still didn't say anything and continued walking. It was raining heavily, and my car was parked just outside the lawn, so I got completely drenched. I was already in a terrible mood. This is where I might have been the problem. My parents and brother followed me, and while I was searching for my keys, they asked me one last time for help. This time, it was my brother asking. He had always been smug and arrogant, a result of how our parents treated us, so seeing him like that was strange. It must have taken a lot for him to ask, which made me think they were being honest about their situation. Still, I lost my temper. I told them to leave me alone and that if they were really that desperate, they could go beg on the streets. A stranger would probably feel more sympathy for them than I ever would. After saying that, I got into my car and drove away, leaving them standing in the rain. I won't lie. It felt satisfying after everything they had put me through. It's been 2 days since then, and now I'm not sure if I was right. My mother has been texting me nonstop, and I feel guilty for not helping. I know I have enough, and sending them some money wouldn't hurt me, but after everything that's happened, it feels like I'm just being used. So now I'm wondering if I was wrong for refusing to help my family financially, after they took my ex's side in the divorce. Update 1. So I decided not to help them. It was a big decision for me, because I felt extremely guilty about essentially abandoning them. But then, I realized they had been doing exactly that to me, my entire life. Even during the divorce, they were the ones who threw me under the bus, so why should I hesitate to do the same? I told my mother to stop pestering me, or I'd be forced to involve my lawyers, and it wouldn't end well for them. That naturally upset them, and a few days later, my brother showed up at my house to talk. He said that while he felt sorry for how I'd been treated growing up, he couldn't help the fact that he was inherently better than me, which was why he had always been treated differently. He also told me I should stop acting strange toward our parents for doing what any normal parents would have done, and instead of holding grudges like a child, I should help them since they were in a tough situation. I laughed in his face because of how ridiculous he sounded. I told him that, instead of trying to belittle me and manipulate me into helping them, he should be out looking for a job instead of wasting his time like this. That clearly struck a nerve. He started yelling, saying I was just jealous that not only our parents, but even my ex-wife preferred him over me, and that I was taking revenge by refusing to give them money. I didn't bother arguing and simply agreed, saying that yes, I was doing this for revenge, and there wasn't much he could do about it. That made him furious. He told me he would come after me and force me to pay one way or another, and that I would regret ever speaking to him like that. Honestly, I didn't take any of it seriously. He can try to scare me all he wants, but I know he's not capable of doing anything to me. I'm completely unbothered. Update 2. 3 days ago, my brother came to see me and tried to convince me to help them, but he failed. My parents had already tried before and failed as well. So this time, my ex decided to call me. I was hesitant to answer, but I figured if I didn't, they would just show up again and waste more of my time. So I picked up. It was unbelievable how entitled and cruel they could be. She started off politely, saying that as I already knew, she and her family were struggling financially. While she admitted I had no obligation to help after everything they'd done, she still asked me to think about it and be the bigger person. She tried to appeal to my sympathy by reminding me that my parents had paid for everything while I was growing up, and that she had tried to be a good wife. That was laughable. My parents never cared about me and always favored my brother, and she cheated on me with that same brother I had complained about. None of that worked on me. I told her that while I felt bad for their situation, I was already wasting money paying her alimony, something she didn't even deserve after cheating, but still managed to get because my family had no problem lying and painting me as the villain. She started crying on the call and accused me of being selfish and heartless, which was ironic. When I still refused to help, she said my brother was right and that I had left her with no choice but to involve the law. She threatened to demand higher alimony and drag me to court again to humiliate me. Honestly, I'd like to see them try. The first time, I was so emotionally drained and depressed that I didn't even fight back or try to defend myself. I just gave in and agreed to the alimony without attempting to prove their claims false. I was never toxic or controlling like they said. She had no reason to cheat on me and didn't deserve a single dollar from the divorce. But at the time, I didn't care. I just wanted it to be over, no matter what. This time, however, I was ready to fight and make sure I taught my family a lesson they wouldn't forget. Update 3. In a shocking turn of events, my ex-wife stayed true to her word for once and actually filed for a higher amount of alimony after my promotion. But this time, I wasn't going to let things slide so easily. I reached out to all our mutual friends and told them everything that had been happening, including past events, since most of them only knew we had separated and didn't know the real reason. They were understandably shocked. I asked if they would testify against my ex if it came down to it, and they readily agreed. I also told my lawyer that I wanted to terminate the alimony arrangement entirely, since she didn't deserve it at all. Over the past few days, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find, showing how my parents and brother had treated me horribly, never seeing me as an equal, and were now harassing me for money after learning about my promotion. I had reached my limit and wanted to cut these people out of my life for good, without considering their feelings anymore. I managed to convince some of my cousins, who had witnessed me being treated like an outsider in my own home while growing up, to speak on my behalf. Even though we weren't particularly close, they agreed to help. My lawyer was pleased with the evidence we had collected and said our case was strong. There was a real chance we could eliminate the alimony. It was already known that my ex had cheated on me, but the narrative she created, portraying me as the villain and my brother as the hero who rescued her, was entirely false. I hadn't fought back before, but this time I was determined to set the record straight. And I did. My family had nothing to say when I presented multiple video testimonials from friends and relatives supporting my side, proving that everything they had claimed about me was untrue. I think they assumed they would get away with it again, like last time, but I wasn't that emotionally fragile anymore. If anything, everything they put me through had made me stronger. Yesterday, it was finalized that I no longer have to pay my ex any alimony, in light of the new evidence. I felt like the happiest man alive when I realized it was finally over. Seeing the smug expressions wiped off my family's faces was incredibly satisfying. My ex looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care anymore. I was done with all of it. I thought I'd go home, order some great takeout, and watch a movie. But of course, my family had to do everything in their power to ruin that too. I was only a few yards from my house when I noticed my brother's car parked outside. I was confused about why he was there, but I went in anyway. That's when I saw my family standing outside my door, blocking my way. I was caught off guard and didn't know what to say at first, but I chose to act unaffected and told them to get off my property if they didn't want me to call the police. That's when my father spoke up, saying I should be ashamed of what I had done. He went on to lecture me about how I had no sense of responsibility toward my family and had betrayed them by refusing to help when they needed it most. When he finished, I didn't respond or engage at all. I just stood there in silence. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of provoking me, because I knew that was their goal, to push me until I reacted emotionally and did something impulsive. But I'm not an idiot, and their desperate attempts weren't going to help their case at all, which they should have realized by then. My silence probably frustrated them even more. Even when my mother demanded that I show my dad respect and respond to him, I refused to say a word. I could see them growing more agitated because they were clearly hoping for a big argument, but nothing like that was happening. After more yelling, my brother finally lost control and grabbed me by the collar. He tried to hit me, but my dad managed to pull him back, just in time, while he shouted that I was nothing but a jealous loser who would never amount to anything. It was honestly ironic coming from someone unemployed, living with his parents, and begging his brother for money, but fine. I told them they needed to leave, or I would call the police, and considering their financial situation, they should probably leave within the next 5 minutes. Reluctantly, they backed off, though not before my mother made one last attempt to shame me into giving them money. It didn't work, and eventually, they left. It's been almost a day since then, and they haven't tried to contact me. I'm really hoping it stays that way. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I found out my wife cheated on me with my stepdaughter's father, so I divorced her immediately. My 33M wife, 33F, cheated on me in December. I walked in on them at his house, already knowing what was going on. It was my stepdaughter's father. For years, I had been the one keeping him off our property and controlling my anger toward him. I spent my days taking care of the house, the pets, the yard, and her daughter, 4F. When we got married, she had me get rid of my old car so I could drive one of hers. I also did some part-time work at the law firm where she worked. My days started at 6 a.m. and sometimes didn't end until 2 a.m. because of all the responsibilities I had. I tried to forgive her, but I kept catching her talking to him and even making plans to sleep with other men, all while assuring me she wanted to fix our marriage. She abused me both sexually and emotionally, blaming me for her cheating and saying I should have done something to stop it. She used guilt and threats to pressure me into sex when I made it clear I wasn't ready. After I caught her with him, she got pregnant. I asked for a DNA test, but instead, she immediately got an abortion and blamed me for that too. I decided to leave last month and quit my job. Since then, my family has been supporting me, but I struggle every day just to get out of bed or even feed myself. We were married for less than a year. I received no spousal support, no car, had to leave my job, lost half my family, her family, and my stepdaughter. I have no home and no money. If my family hadn't stepped in, I would be completely homeless. My mental health is in a terrible place. I've learned that the cheating had been happening even when we were just dating. It feels like everything was fake, like some kind of game to her, and now I'm left to deal with the aftermath. I was cheated on and abused, yet I'm the only one facing consequences. My lawyer, who is a trusted family friend, says there's very little I can do. I don't know how to handle all this emotion or how to fix myself. I know. Why need to take small steps, like finding another job, but even leaving the house feels impossible right now. I'm dealing with severe depression and anxiety in public. Even spending time with friends is exhausting and often leaves me breaking down once I get home. I feel completely broken. Nothing seems to be improving, and I don't know what to do. Update 1. My ex-wife is bringing her affair partner to our divorce hearing. A friend told me she plans to bring him as a final jab at me. How should I handle this? Some friends have offered to come for support, while others suggest I ignore them. What would you do? Update 2. My divorce hearing finally happened today. My post history contains the full story, but I was abused by my ex-wife after I caught her in our bed with another man just days after Christmas last year. I tried to reconcile, but over time, I kept catching her talking to the same man and even planning trips to meet others out of town. She was also receiving inappropriate messages and Snapchats from them, all while lying to me and claiming she had cut contact every time. I finally told her I was leaving and would be filing for divorce, and she told me again that if I left, she would kill me. Yet here I am. I'm alive, and she's permanently out of my life. I came home from the courthouse, hit a few new maxes at the gym, and overall I'm feeling great. She doesn't know where I live. I moved out of town, and she has no idea where my new job is either. This woman, whom I love deeply and would have done anything for, took everything from me. My job, my car, my home, my stepdaughter, my marriage, my mental health, and potentially my child. Even though I'm confident it was AP's baby, she aborted it when I asked for a DNA test. This entire year has been an unending hell for me, and through it all, she blamed me for leaving and tearing our family apart. By the time she arrived this morning, I was already speaking with my lawyer. We just needed to be present and have the papers signed by the judge. I didn't look at her once, not even when she tried to hand me mail from the house. I just took it and kept walking. I did notice that AP wasn't with her, which was strange, since she had told mutual friends he would be there. Everything went smoothly. I was stressed and emotional inside, but I kept a calm smile on my face and held myself together. She sounded like she was about to cry, but I never looked. It wasn't until I got home that I found a note mixed in with my mail. AP wasn't there because he had gotten another girl pregnant. I tore the note up and threw it away. She had a loving husband, yet she cheated, lied, and hurt me until I left her, and she did it for a loser who was seeing other women anyway. The final irony is that AP hates being a father. He's lazy, used to beat my ex-wife when they were together, and drops his daughter off with his mother whenever he has her. She called him by his first name and called me Dad because she barely knew him. His own mother cried on Christmas while we shared a drink because she was so happy. Her granddaughter had me in her life. This new baby will only make his life worse. My only hope is that whoever he's having this child with gets away from him as soon as possible, for the baby's sake. Despite the surge of energy I feel, I'm also very alone today. I keep shifting between feeling extremely happy and completely numb. Sorry if this is all over the place. I just feel strange. I thought it would feel better, but if I'm being honest, I wish none of us were suffering.